Ope Adeoye, the PM. PM.
They say I'm not a good PM
transition.
again now.
Now? Because now your
They are
skin
fighting me every day in the office now. That you don't even know how to prioritize again.
Yes, you're a stakeholder. You're no longer a PM.
I've become what I used to fight.
Exactly. You know, most of your career has been you product managing, and obviously you started this journey as a PM as well. So now that you are quote unquote no longer a PM, what would you say is different? Okay, so two questions. One, what is different between the Ope that started 2i Labs and OnePipe and the Ope that's sitting in front of me?
Yeah.
And what is okay? No, let's answer that one first.
I would say the first thing that jumps out is perspective.
Okay.
They will always tell you in any PM school or PM conversation, a part of the PM's job is empathy. You need to see from the other person's side of the table, etc. It's easier to say when you've not sat on all the chairs around the table.
Agreed.
So now I am learning that the approach I used to have towards PMing before to higher up stakeholders, and it was like a known thing. Like my boss used to tell me, "You don't know how to manage up." I've embraced it. I don't know how to manage up. Is what it is. And I used to be a hardliner. If this is our plan,
that's
stick
it.
to this
We're not moving
We're not moving
anywhere.
anywhere. But then no matter the superior argument or alternative perspective, but as long as you are an higher up person, oga, step aside. So now, I am now that person on the other side of the table, talking to maybe 30, 40 customers per time, going back to PMs to say, hey, can we adjust this small so that this guy can be happy? So I'm now learning to appreciate my former bosses.
Yes, that happens. You wake up one day and you're like, oh wow.
It's true.
Oh, they're not like oh my god. Yeah. It's quite interesting.
So that's the first one. A perspective I didn't have before of being the primary stakeholder is now something I've now accepted.
Okay. I was going to ask you what you think has contributed to the change, but obviously there's the fact that now you are 100% responsible for the success and failure of the business, and naturally growth would always make a difference. So what would you say that, apart from the one that you already pointed out, that's managing up, what are 2 or 3 major things that you feel have contributed to the you that you are today, and what things you think you could have done better in the past that would have helped you move?
I think I could have been more focused than overly experimental. Like there's some balance between, so it's year 3 plus now. Between year 1 to year 3, I think there has been several opportunities to pick 2-3 parts and face it head on, and not say this is the end game. There are 7 possible parts to it. Try all 7 to see which one sticks. While that in itself is a way, could the 7 have been 5 and still arrive at the same conclusion? Could it have been 4? So I think if I could go back now, one of the things I would do differently is, in some cases, place a bet. Don't try it all. Like place 1 or 2 bets and focus and see what comes in. I'll also say, and this is not even as a PM now, I think this is more as a founder. There's a tendency that once you take outside money, you become indisciplined. Like you start to do things you expect your early stage investors think you should do. I look at our last 2 funding rounds. We're even joking around in the office. Like, just look at our metrics charts. There's always some spike in expenses and top line metrics almost after every fundraise. Then 3 months after that, you'll be like, wait, this thing we're doing is very stupid. Why are we doing it again? We're doing it because the investors like it. But it's leaking value. So we cut it down and go back to normal stuff. Twice now it has happened. So I think for me as a founder, I would say, thinking back, if you have an approach to something that you are, again, betting on, as much as possible stay true.
Right. And you're betting on not just because your gut thinks that this is the right thing
that there's
to
some
do. There's
proof, evidence around it.
Evidence.
Yeah. So there are things startups do, and we all know that things startups do to pump numbers, make things look nice. If those things are not fundamentally sustainable, don't get high on it.
Yeah. Okay. Beyond, outside of work now, what aspects of your life would you say have drastically changed being, over the last 5 years?
I'm no longer physically fit. Yes. That one is clear. That one is very clear to me. I'm no longer physically fit. So
what happened to basketball?
Help me ask them. So up until 2018, I had a regular routine: basketball every Friday night, follow sports to some extent. At least that one is there. That hasn't happened in a long time now. So I think that's not good. So that's one aspect. But beyond that, I don't know that I had a real personal life before anyway. So apart from that, nothing much has changed. But COVID has made it possible for me to not really tap into what I've always been. I'm a hermit by nature. Like, I'm always inside one room and there's no lights. That's me. But work changed that. Like, you need to wake up, go to work, come back. But then once COVID showed up, and it was okay to really just stay in that one room and still be working. I think post-COVID, I've now gone deeper into that mode. Like, I just don't leave my house except I absolutely have to. Okay,
so I'm happy with the trajectory that you're going. Okay. So it's very common, for founders, especially technology inclined founders, to bury themselves literally inside work 247. Oh, I'm writing this code, it must go out. Oh, this product we're building. Oh, this or that. But obviously, building a business, we all know that there's a major factor,
social component,
exactly social component. So how, and you who being an introvert, for example, have you been able to marry those two different people? Because you have to be two different people at different points in time.
I've not done well, so let's just say I've not been able to marry them.
Okay.
But in fairness, again, back to people and support. So I have people like Mayowa, Femi after him. I have people who, those things you can't do.
Yeah.
Okay. They will help you keep people.
Femi life of the party.
They will help you do that. Those things that you can't do. So that's one way.
Okay.
So let's say Mayowa calls and say, let's go and greet X person. I will like, sorry, I didn't go, but he will still go greet the person. He will throw a lot of OnePipe discussion or discussion into it. It will almost be as if I was there. Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, interesting. But okay, so yes, you are not a social animal, but still you needed to remain quote unquote visible and relevant in the industry. How were you able to navigate all of that?
I would say the digital thing helps also. Like, people you don't see, we are always with on WhatsApp. Actually, it helps a lot too. So you may say, let's say on Sunday, I'll speak one story, but me and you are chatting throughout Sunday. So in a sense, you feel connected, but we didn't see.
Yeah.
So I think that helped. Like, I'm in touch with a lot of people just because, aka digital. Once in a while, I try to be funny on Twitter. And I, like that reminds a few people that this guy is not
exists.
It's okay. So once in a while.
Yeah. Okay. So you mentioned COVID as something that really, the lockdowns that really helped you,
go back
to your comfort zone. But you were working for what, 13, 14 years before that, full time. So how did doing that and then transitioning into life immediately after that, 2i Labs, OnePipe, how did that happen?
So I liked it. Like, throughout the time I was even in paid employment, I used to always complain. Why do we need to come to this place? Like, why are we here? Like, is it necessary? Like, I used to always fight it. But I was also that guy who resumes 7 o'clock in the morning, closes at 10 at night.
I remember.
And it wasn't because I liked the work only. It was like I hate traffic. Like, let me just drive when I know that it take 30 minutes to get there and 30 minutes to come back, which means early and late. So because I've always been that guy who did it painfully, once the opportunity came to stop doing it, hallelujah. But during the twilight days, once again, because you are selling, building, etc. I was on the road a lot, driving, texting. I was on the road a lot. So once the twilight phase was over, COVID joined it quickly. I'm not going back to that life.
Okay, so as we know, the journey is
sinusoidal wave.
The up moments, it's obviously easy to stay afloat, keep motivated, or keep yourself motivated, when the ginger is there. But in those valleys when the ginger is not happening, or when you wake up and you're like, God,
why am I doing this to myself?
How do you stay afloat? How do you move on to the next thing in those times?
I have a routine.
Okay.
That helps. So I take a walk every night, around an hour. I try my best to let that be my own time. Like I try. It doesn't always work. Like don't take calls during the walk. Etc. Listen to music or listen to a podcast, but walk and look at the sky. So I do that every evening. I think that sort of helps to refresh me. Yeah. And when I'm completely overwhelmed and I can't like this so much, I just take time off. Like I can decide that for the next 1 week, just be canceling things from your calendar. Yeah, people who want to talk to you, you be like, you procrastinate those times. Oh, let's have a meeting. Can we do it upper week? Like you just put yourself in a slow burn mode. Okay. I do that periodically in the absence of taking a real leave. So I only answer things that are like urgent. Very urgent. So this thing, I do this like periodically, maybe like every 6 months, or when things just
when you're overwhelmed.
Yeah. Okay. Then I think once I've gone on vacation.
Once in 5 years.
That one has worked.
Interesting. It's interesting. Your support system. Who is your support system? Let's start from there. And how have they been able to help you navigate the journey?
So most of the other founders that I'm close enough with, at least they are, maybe we don't talk much, but the context is always clear. It's always part of the things that we all need the most is someone that you say, see this thing, and you know they can relate.
Yes.
So for me, that's my first layer. That you say, I'm dealing with X, and you can just and laugh for like 15 minutes, but you're both saying the same thing to each other. So I think that's my first one. The second one is my former bosses who get it. Like on Saturdays, just spend like Saturdays. Okay, how is it on your side? How is it on your side? Like it's almost like therapy. So that works. And of course your family. Anytime I see my daughter's picture or video making funny faces, I always end up smiling. So you can call that support system too. So.
Interesting.
Okay. But I keep hearing that people need therapists. Maybe I do need one.
Well, I guess it's not one size fits all. What do you do with the therapy? You sit down and talk. And
what can I talk to the mirror?
You have other people that you talk to. You just mentioned the number of people. You have mentors. You have. I feel like talking to somebody that actually understands what you're going through goes a long way. Yeah. So you're talking to maybe somebody who has gone through this exact journey of founding a business or founding a technology business. They know what you're saying. It's not abstract.
You have to explain too much.
Exactly. Yes. And they can relate very quickly. Okay, so
and Netflix helps.
Yeah, I fall asleep in front of Netflix.
I do too. But that's the whole purpose.
Okay, so what does the future hold for Ope?
You know the answer is octopus Paul, have you? Octopus Paul now. Well, Ope needs to make OnePipe get to steady states, like absolute steady states. And after that point, ask how far. That's what needs to happen. People have always said things like a company is growing and the team has to keep growing with it, including the founders.
Yeah.
And you target your next milestone, you get the growth you need to hit that milestone as a person. So I need to keep growing to keep the company running in whatever stage it is until I can't take it anymore. And then the company should be able to take care of itself. Like sending your child away from home to uni. You cannot follow them to uni.
It's interesting that, looking at your history, until you started doing things that you really loved, every 2 years you got an itch to do something different.
Yeah, I apologize.
But you haven't done that.
Yeah.
You haven't gotten that. You haven't gotten bored. So clearly, this is something that you're extremely passionate about.
And again, don't forget, fear of failure is also a driving force.
Well, there is that.
Yes.
Okay.
Like, make it work. At times, I will stand alone in the house and like, this OnePipe thing has to work. And I'm just talking to myself. So let that be the picture of why the 2-year formula won't apply here.
Yeah. Okay. So, Ope, what would you say to incoming or existing new founders who are looking up to you and people like you and trying to, or even people that are trying to take the plunge? And
don't look up to me. Even me, I'm looking for who to look up to.
life is hierarchical. That's okay.
Again, it will be prepare as much as you can, but you can't prepare enough. Prepare as much as you can, but you can't prepare enough. So that will be one. 2 will be, it's really just about staying power. There's no right, there's no wrong. It's just pure staying power. So I think everybody that's going to start a company needs to be asking themselves, am I ready to stay true till it works?
But what if I finish burning my cash? What then?
Join an accelerator. Apply to 7 accelerators. Switch to project mode.
That's bad.
Start doing consulting. Beg for money. Put your car on Uber, whatever. So that's the staying power thing. It's like you can plan, but first resolve that I'm doing this. That resolve is much more useful than your plan, and if you can answer that honestly to yourself that I'm down for this, then just become staying power. As you get beaten left, right, and center, you always navigate. Like, oh, you're running out of cash, close down lab, turn to OnePipe. This OnePipe, like, is taking forever, turn it to project and white labeling. This white labeling is like they're just punishing me. Okay, join accelerator. You get, so you keep meandering till you finally find steady state. So that's the only question everyone needs to answer to. Like, am I ready? If the answer is yes, please carry on.
And then there's also always the question of founders getting hooked on the original idea.
That was a mistake.
This is how my business model was. This was the plan. In our original pitch, this is what we said we were going to do.
You know that Mike Tyson quotes now. Everybody has a plan to get punched in the face.
Yep.
Yes. So I think it's one of the tenets of what will make anyone a good entrepreneur. The willingness to say the end game is clear.
Yeah.
But the path should remain flexible. Like for us, the end game is X million people need to start using banking in some form of open way that is not tied to the app I got from the bank. It is some sort of open way. If that's the end game, is the path to it open banking, API aggregation, payment aggregation, statement lookup. What's that part? We was trying to figure it out. But that end game can be locked in, but the meandering you will do to get there.
And the end game should be as high level as possible, such that you don't get stuck on the how.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, Ope. It was great having this conversation with you. Thank you for coming on Founders Who Dared, and thank you for daring and sharing your story with us.
Thank you for having me.